Mr. Dossen, good morning, welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
And how's life? How's everything going?
Well, it's good.
What is the, first of all, before we get into the discussion, what is the Millennium Challenge Account-Liberia? What is it?
Now, the Millennium Challenge Account-Liberia, we shortly say MCL. It's the implementing entity for the U.S. government in terms of the compact that was signed. So there is the Millennium Challenge Corporation, which is the entity that represents the U.S. government, and the Millennium Challenge Account-Liberia is the entity that represents the Liberia government regarding the compact.
Okay. So what do you do?
So MCL is mainly responsible for the compact that was signed, and this compact has to do with support to the road and electricity infrastructure in Liberia. So it all started a few years back when, first of all, Liberia benefited from the threshold grant from the U.S. government, and through that process, Liberia had to go through the period of conducting a constraints analysis, and this analysis was to address the binding constraint to private sector investment, because from the approach is that private sector investment is the engine to economic growth. So the constraint analysis was performed to identify what are those things that prevent private sector investment. So the basic question was, what constrains investment? And that question was answered through the growth diagnostic framework, and it all came down to two major things. One is the lack of affordable and reliable electricity in Liberia, and the next was that a significant portion of our major road network was dilapidated. So then the compact was developed, the proposal was developed to address these constraints, and that was signed as the compact, and this is what we as the Millennium Challenge Account, we are responsible for implementing this. There were many conditions in the compact that we are meant to address, and so there is the road component and there is the energy component, and they both have different activities. So if I would speak to the energy aspect, I know I will talk more about the gender and social inclusion component, but just an overview of the energy.
Yeah, because that's also important.
Yeah, so their main activities. One is to support the rehabilitation of Mount Coffee. We call that the Mount Coffee Rehabilitation Project. And the main thing around that was to increase the generation capacity of the Mount Coffee hydropower power plant from 66 megawatts to 88 megawatts. And so the MCA and the MCC had to procure the fourth turbine for that purpose. Another key component is the Mount Coffee support activity, and that really has to do with livelihood projects around the area, because after the dam was rehabilitated, it impacted people differently, the people who lived in the communities. So some of the projects that went on had to do with constructions of bridges, floating bridges, hand pumps, and resettlement. So this was done in collaboration with the project implementation unit at LEC. And another major component of the energy project is the LEC training center. The idea is to construct and equip a training center, first of its kind, for LEC. And this is going to be at the Bourgeois Island substation area. And this center will look at all the key aspects in terms of training, and will be mainly to train technicians from LEC. And lastly, under that is the energy reform component, and that is mainly to strengthen the planning and implementation capacity of the implementing entities. So the main entities that we work with LEC, Ministry of Mines and Energy now, and then the Ministry of Public Works. But there are others, and that's all there's also the Ministry of Gender and Social Inclusion as it relates to our Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection as it relates to our social inclusion and gender component. So for road, the project is focused on road maintenance mainly, but that project is still under formulation, and pretty soon will be finalized. And so there's going to be there is a component that has to do with matching fund, and so the government will match the MCC money dollar to dollar, and the project has been increased to the fund has been increased because the project has been reformulated. So
let's get certain points straight here. The American government is the one provided all of this money.
That's correct.
Free.
Well, it's a grant, yes.
That grant, so that is it is a goodwill from the American government to Liberia.
Yes, but there are conditions, and
yeah, I know that there were certain parameters that you needed to meet as a country, but overall we don't give anything in return for this money. That's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, you don't necessarily pay back the money, but the money has to. There is a condition of economic rate of return of a certain percentage that this has to accrue. So the economists will speak, better to that, but the investment is calculated such that it has to achieve a certain rate of return. So because the Americans do want to see return on their investment.
Okay. Okay. So we move on to the main reasons why you're here. What's the overall goal of the MCAL Gender and Social Inclusion, what you call GSI?
Yeah. So the main idea is to reduce fragility of vulnerable population. So from the previous assessments that have been done on studies or so, we found out that there are major key populations that are vulnerable. That includes women, that includes children, that includes some minority population. And so the idea of the compact GSI component is to make sure that is to promote equality in terms of participation of different groups, and also promote equity in terms of resources distribution. So in short, we aim to increase the opportunities for everyone to participate and benefit from the compact, and that includes a vulnerable population as well. Because the idea is that many places, as the MCC reports, and it's also clear, where there is increased level of gender inequality, there also tends to be major constraints to economic growth and poverty reduction. And the compact aims to reduce poverty through economic growth. And as we do that, we want to make sure that vulnerable populations the conditions around them are addressed, and they can participate in the project, they can benefit from project opportunities just like anybody else. Because it is true that sometimes when there are such a massive infrastructure project, the benefits tend to fly over the very common people.
So it is a way of including them. So the social and gender integration plan you talked about, even before we go all the way down there, is there any collaboration with Liberia's Ministry of Gender and Social Protection?
Yes, there is. From the onset, when all the consultations were being conducted, we worked with the Ministry of Gender and Development at that time, until now is Gender, Children and Social Protection. Yes, so the reason for the collaboration is, first of all, they are the national missionary for gender development, and so the work is also to promote the collaboration, to get the support in terms of coordinating the gender units, in the different programs, because the MCA is looking to support gender units in the key implementing entities that we are working with. and that's a mandate also from the National Gender Policy. Initially, there were gender focal points in the different ministries and agencies, and now the ministry wants to move forward, wants to take a different step to create full-fledged units, and before these units will be properly served by people who are in higher level positions, at least like the level of a director. Again, initially, many times when there were gender focal points, there were people at a very low level who had no decision-making power. So it could be the receptionist, it could be just someone way down who never gets to influence policy. So the idea is to have people who are in higher positions so they can be able to engage senior management and be able to put things through.
So why is it important to the MCAL and the MCC, the GSI?
Well, like I said before, first of all, the Social and Gender Integration Plan is a condition precedent for MCC, and that means that without this plan, MCC will not provide a certain disbursement. So we have to make sure it was in place. And now, why it is important is that when gender inequality abounds in any situation, it impacts negatively on poverty reduction and economic growth. And the compact aims to reduce poverty through economic growth.
Okay.
So this is why we need to make sure that people can benefit from opportunities, they can be empowered properly, because if we can fully engage different groups irrespective of their gender, irrespective of their different position, we will be fully maximizing the resources that we have available and overall contributing largely to our whole economic situation.
Usually when we hear gender, is it about women?
Well, that's not, that is true usually when you hear gender, but gender is not all about women. Gender has to do with the socially ascribed roles to both men and women. So the issue is that yes, women are largely marginalized and they are largely vulnerable compared to men. So in terms of addressing issues of inequality, there can usually be two main ways to approach it. One is to take affirmative action to do something directed to impact women positively, or to do gender mainstreaming, that is to make sure that across all activities and programs those issues are considered. But gender has to do with both men and women.
Okay. So if you're planning these activities, what do you really do? I really want to know, how does it work? What do you really do? Do you give people money? Do you send them for training or programs? Do you get involved into programs that will ensure that the lives of those way down there are uplifted? Please try to explain that better.
Okay. So there are about four main activities now that we're working on. One main activity is the MSME, productive user of electricity support. That is for macro, small, and medium enterprises. So again, first I would like to mention that all our activities have to be aligned with the compact goals. And then why we want to support MSMEs is that that's the private sector. Again, that's the engine to economic growth. And the idea is to work with them to be able to use the LEC connection productively to increase any productivity and income. So we will be aiming to increase connections for small business, those small and medium enterprises, and we will have business development training, and we are also going to work with different partners to be able to connect them with finance. So that's what we're going to do, and this project will be rolled out this year. So that's one. And the next one is to support LEC Customer Service Center. And maybe you may have experienced that LEC Customer Service Center is actually not up to standard. And so the idea in this customer service center is largely run by women. And so how does that contribute to how does this align with the MCA compact? That with LEC, if we are able to improve the customer service center, we are able to improve the image and integrity of the institution. We are able to keep customers, connected to LEC, because the customer service center is meant to help people. It's meant to help people to be able to, that customers will have, customer service worker will be empowered to properly respond to the problems and complaints of customers, and that can also help waiting time that customers have to wait for a very long time to get connected. So we are going to construct and equip one new customer service center, which we are calling the Customer Service Innovation Center, because we want it to be a one-stop shop where people can go in and have everything done right there.
I'm sure we'll talk about that further. And let's look at the other issues around before we go all the way there. So the next thing is we know that your two main projects, as you talked earlier, energy and road projects. But how is the GSI linked with other compact projects?
Yeah, so there are other activities. One is the environmental and social performance. There is the M&E, monitoring evaluation.
On the environmental.
Yeah. So how we work is that the environmental and social performance, one big project for them is the community-based natural resource management. And this is a very big livelihood support project for community affected persons, by the hydro plant there, the work done there. So they are going to work with community, they are going to engage in agricultural and other livelihood support activities. And how we align with them is to make sure that these activities are done such that they benefit the very poor people, or those people who are impacted, who really need the support. So we're going to make sure that resources and opportunities from this project can be equally fairly distributed, across all gender, men and women, and make sure that the project is also presented in the way that it addresses the particular needs of the different people to work with. Because, for instance, if they are going to provide support to women, it has to be support that really tie into the skills and the interests of women. If they're going to provide support to youth, it has to be something that really fits in. So that's why we're working with them hand in hand as this project goes on. For now, the project has not been awarded yet, but it's now we're going through the completion of the whole RFP.
Okay. Well, what is RFP?
Well, that's the request for proposal. So the 2 hours been finalized. It has to be approved by MCC, and then the project will be put out for people to bid. And once the best person with the best proposal wins the project, then we'll start to work with them.
So what are some of the specific GSI integration milestones you've achieved regarding the key activities of the energy and road projects?
Well, we've done quite a lot in terms of integrating GSI issues in compact activities. First of all, one work is to look at all the different terms of references, the contracts that are going to be put out, and make sure that the key gender and social inclusion issues are considered in those documents. And I would say first, if we take LEC Training Center, we have made sure that we have a gender and social inclusion specialist on the team, because right now we have a team that's conducting the training needs assessment. And because we hope to see a training program, a training curriculum that will really be gender sensitive and gender responsive. And we want a training program that will see both groups equally and structure in a way that they can meet the needs of women and men. And because we know there is the notion that those the engineering fields or those technical fields are largely for men. So we don't want that kind of perception to impact the development of the program. So we make sure that we have a specialist on the team who will be able to help to make sure that the program or the curriculum, they are all developed such that they give equal attention, they address all biases and any barriers that will undermine the participation and recruitment of women.
Very, very important. So what are the main GSI projects the MCA is supporting, and how will they impact the ordinary people?
Yeah, so one GSI project, like I said, is the project for macro, small, and medium enterprises for the productive use of electricity. We want them to connect to LEC. We want them to use LEC wisely, and we will look at issue of energy efficiency and everything for them. And we're also going to support the construction of the new customer service center for LEC, and also renovate the existing customer service center at Waterside. And we're also going to electrify, we're working to electrify up to 3 big markets.
We will come to that and you explain more, but how is MCA or GSI project similar and different from other gender programs and projects?
Yeah, okay. So it's similar in the fact that it's addressing GSI issues, looking at issue of inequality, looking at the issue of inequity, and promoting social justice issues to make sure that the vulnerable conditions of certain population, mainly women, youth, and persons with disabilities or other conditions, are addressed. But it is different in the sense that our projects have to be fully aligned with compact activities. So for instance, now there is the big field. We could move on to education, we could move on to agriculture, we could move on to a lot, but are those things enshrined in the compact? So we have to make sure that any project we develop is actually fine-tuned and fully aligned with the compact. So in the period myself, there is the money available for this, but why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that? And yeah, it's difficult for us to do all of those things if we're not contributing to making sure that we have reliable and affordable electricity, if we are not making sure that we are addressing issues around road maintenance.
So then we'll move on to the target beneficiaries of the planned GSI projects. And then including that will be the next step of the various projects that we name one by one, like the SGRP3.
Yeah. So the beneficiaries are the very ordinary people. So for the market, the entrepreneurship development aspect, we are looking at businesses, small and medium enterprises, along mainly the 3 corridors of electricity in Liberia. So we're talking about the Bush Road to Tubman-Burr corridor. We're talking about the Painesville to RI corridor and Painesville to Kakata corridor, because those are the lines that we have electricity currently, or electricity is going to be rolled out in those areas. So the businesses there, the small and medium enterprises that are in those areas, they have the opportunity to benefit from the project. And also the markets, like I said. So the market, up to 3 big markets, we have the opportunity to benefit from this project too, because we know that the infrastructure of the local markets does not support better lighting, and sometimes people want to sell for longer hours and to help to make more money, but they cannot do this, and so there's security issues also around that. So we're hoping that we'll be able to identify markets, and that will be.
You have not identified them yet.
Well, we are doing an assessment, so it has to be an objective criteria for selecting them. But we've done an assessment already with a few markets around. So, and then we also are going to put out a proposal, a call for a proposal to do a feasibility, more technical assessment, and then we will be able to make the final decision on what the markets are, and we'll be able to develop the criteria for selecting the markets.
Okay, also in that, the next step for this project, the LEC Customer Service Innovation Center that you started to talk about, what specifically will you be doing with
So for the LEC Customer Service Center, where we are now is that we're finalizing the terms of reference for the first part of this, which will be to conduct a feasibility and assessment and design for the customer service center. So first of all, we want to be able to determine where to situate the customer service center, and we're going to, the criteria are going to involve, customer volume or what, but the experts will tell the best location, to put the customer service center. We want to know that, and then we also want to know more about the current condition of the existing customer service center, like how are we going to improve it, what are we going to expand it, and what are we going to do. So this will be the first part of this, and then this person will design for us a customer service center. It'll give us a preliminary blueprint, which we're now going to take to the next step to complete, and then put out the final bid for construction and everything. But we are also going to do customer service training. So that would be a major part.
That's very crucial, because it is one of the problems in our control of the customer service.
Yeah, and this training will not only look at customer service workers, it will also look at other staff within the agency, because customer service is not limited to the customer service worker. It's also limited to management. It also extends to management and other staff as well, because those are people who appear to be the face of the entity. They engage customers at different levels. So we're definitely going to have them involved in training.
Okay, still on that, one of the other things,
the SGIPs.
The SGIP training.
Yeah, that's the social and gender integration plan. This is like the Bible for rolling out all the activities under the gender and social inclusion component. So we are going to have this training next week, and we are inviting our key partners and also the implementing entities to attend this training. And that's the next step for this. And after that, we are definitely, because the plan has a lot of action plans, like for each entity. There is an action plan for mines and energy, there is an action plan for public works, there is an action plan for LEC, there is an action plan for the macro, small and medium enterprises. So these are the plans that we will move on next to start to implement.
Okay, so then is the Gender and Social Inclusion units in LEC, Ministry of Mines and Energy, and Ministry of Public Works.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, we hope to establish full-fledged units as opposed to the initial gender focal points. So we are hoping that there will be dedicated gender units within each of those entities, and with about 3 staff, and the highest person should be no lower than the level of a director. Or for LEC now, because since the director is not does not fit well within the structure.
Why are they supposed to be doing that for example, in public works? If we have this unit there, what will we be doing?
Well, the unit will support gender and social mainstreaming and consistent with public works. Mentioned like public works is they're in charge of road construction and everything. So that unit is going to make sure that wave of women empowerment, gender development, and jobs are taken away from people. The focus is not that. The idea is not to do that, but the idea is to create more opportunity for women and girls who have been marginalized for a long time. And if we want to establish that balance to be able to promote our economy, we have to make sure that we can use all the resources, human resources, and they also are a great resource that we don't fully utilize.
Well, I don't know if you can answer this, but if you're working with the LEC, you wanted to deliver better. Are you concerned about the delivery capacity of LEC? Sometimes we hear no meters in the entire country about that.
Yeah, the MCC and MCA are working with that, and that's why they have an entity also in place to support that. the idea of our support to LEC is at the end of the day we should be able to curtail, I know, some of these things. So this is something that we are fully aware of, and actions have been taken, and you know, things have been put in place at the moment to address them.
Okay, he's here from the Millennium Challenge Account-Liberia office. Somebody says he's following us from there. Let me bring some of your comments from social media before we can go to the phone lines on 080939395, 07700-995, the numbers to call. Juhe Pitaba Diallo says that he said there is current in Kakata. We were told current will have been in Kakata by last December, but there is no sign of it up now. I wonder when will Kakata get electricity. Edna Brooklyn is falling for somewhere in Monrovia. Sunday Allison, what is the Ministry of Gender and Social Protection of Children doing about children selling? Well, I don't think that's what their work is about. But address the Kakata issue, then we'll take.
No, when I mentioned Kakata, I was talking about the corridor.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, there is plan to roll out electricity there.
From all the way Nimba coming through.
Well, say from for now it's like so from Painesville to roll out to Kakata. That's the corridor there. That's what I was talking about.
Okay. So let's go to the lines now. Good morning. Welcome. Good morning. What's the name? Where are you calling from? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. No.
The southeast of Liberia. Okay, he will answer that. I hope you just jot down the concerns. Okay, let's take this one. Good morning. Good morning, yo.
Good morning, students.
Good morning. What's the name and where are you calling from?
Thank you. My name is Raleigh Salah and I call from Single, Raleigh.
Okay, go ahead, Raleigh.
Thank you. I'd like to say good morning to your studios, and I think this is about to start. This is all done to really support the quote-unquote the purple agenda. But what is the considerations of other nationalized group into your own program? Yes, much that your program speak of the different issues. But are you also contemplating about also including some of the groupings like the most marginalized people living with disability to be part of the process that you can build the fruitful society? Thank you.
Thank you. He'll answer that. Let me read his concern. Then he just answered those questions. Then we'll continue taking calls on 088093995, 07700-995. Prosperous Fusion says, I have been touched and motivated more to strive for the best in life, education, seeing my big brother Benedict discussing national issues. I feel proud and happy. Continue the hard work, Shaq. More wisdom.
Oh, thank you, Prosper. So the first question about the Southeast, no. So we don't have any project for the Southeast. For now, we're limited to where LEC is within this area. And the second question about greater inclusion for persons with disabilities, I would say that's a very excellent point that he raised. And yes, our eyes are on it. So even for the training tomorrow, next week rather, the social and gender integration plan training, we have extended an invitation to the National Commissions on Disabilities to be represented, because we do know that when we implement all these projects like the MSME support activity, we will be reaching out to all those business people within the category, whether the person with disabilities, whether they're women, youth, or whatsoever. We're trying to reach them and trying to make sure that to remove barriers that will prevent such groups from participating, so that they can join.
Okay, let's take this one. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead. Let's hear you.
Yes, my name is Benedict.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, actually, in this course level, customer service, and we have a organization that's very essential for that rollout. First, I brought up the next version. So the launch to AAP, so the solution of
Okay, thank you very much. You want to respond to that?
Yes. So we had the Millennium Challenge account. Their office is on the end of Ronald Street, opposite Convent. Just when you turn right to go to Coconut Plantation, right there, the F&F building. So my name is Benedict Dossen. You go there, you will find me, and you can address the letter to me, Benedict Dossen at MCAL Liberia.
You want to give a post as well, so that
so post like you. Okay, so I give my phone number, something like that.
What's the title?
Oh, my position is director. I'm the director of gender and social inclusion.
Okay.
Yeah.
We take more calls on 080939395, 080939395, 0777-700-995. We were discussing with the gender and social inclusion expert here from the MCAL, the Millennium Challenge Account-Liberia, talking about all of the work that they're doing here, the gender and social inclusion aspect of this particular work. And you started since when? 2000?
It's 2007. That's when I started.
You know what I mean? These particular projects that you're involved with now.
Yeah. So actually, with the compact everything, we were MCA already started full-fledged work at the beginning of 2007. So that whole period was just developmental. So we're trying to make sure we meet all the condition precedents, like develop these plans and all of that, and put in place the full staff.
So we have Benedict Dossen and Thomas Bissac, Senior Sales, thanks to Ben for informing the public on our project. He's calling from the Millennium Challenge Account-Liberia office. At the end of the day, is this a sustainable project? Does it continue on and on, or is there going to come a time when it comes to an end?
Yes, the project is going to end, but the impact, we are working to make sure that it's sustainable. The project will end in 2021, January.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, and this project has been, this compact is kind of a special compact. So in the way that the MC actually lost like a year, before they started full implementation. So from the time MC started, they were already racing against time, and so it's on the dot. So yes, but systems are put in place. That all the projects, there is major sustainability components. So that's why there's a lot of trainings for all the entities we're working with. The TOTs and structures are going to be in place that will continue to exist and throughout. So it's not like we're just coming in and leaving. So we hope to leave monumental marks at the end of the day.
And so this seems to erase that notion that America is not doing anything for Liberia. Perhaps people didn't know about this, that especially with the support to the hydro and all that.
Yeah, I know. So the fact that I cannot give greater details to the thing because there are different directors, but you are right, and the director for energy will really explain this. And so, but we are working on that. So we have a communications department that it's a very robust project. The idea is to get the information out as much as possible, and because we know that if people don't get the right information, there is tendency to fill in the gap with any information. So we are working hard to make sure that we get the word out. Yes, but there is a lot ongoing, and the team at the MCA are really into it to make sure that we can really maximize the value of this grant that has been blessed, to this country. So they are not taking it seriously. They're trying their best to make sure Liberia get the best out of it.
Okay, so as we look at this issue of gender mainstream, gender and social inclusion, is it that you sometimes work with like women groups? Is that what you do, or do you do it through the Ministry of Gender?
So we do have a lot of consultations, and some of those consultations involve women group. So, but if you mean like if we provide direct support,
direct
so
support,
women group, no, that's not how it works.
Okay.
And like I said, it has to be tied to the overall compact goals. Like, so you see the MSME project I talked about is linked with connection for LEC. And that is important because we want LEC to have increased our revenue, and one way to do it is to increase the number of customers for LEC. And also we're trying to reduce poverty through economic growth by empowering private sector investment. So this is why we're working with the local businesses. And then but businesses that are owned by women are a priority.
Okay.
Yes.
Businesses owned by women are a priority, and that's why you mentioned the markets.
Yes,
the electrification of the markets.
Electrification of the big markets. So take for instance, Drop and Town, Rally Town, all of these markets. Like consultations there says that some of these people would like to sell and for longer hours. But sometimes
and they would also love to be charging their phones.
They would love to charge their phones. They would love to have refrigerators. So there's increase in those spoilage. So many times their products will spoil at the end of the day. So sometimes what they have to do, especially those people who sell fish or chicken, they'll have to dry them immediately. So if they have the facility, they can use in the refrigerator to keep the things in the cold and fresh. So to reduce the spoilage and continue to sell. So yes, and we want productive use of electricity. So we want people to get connected, but we want to encourage them to use the electricity to make money, productively. So they have to be creative, think about ways, and so we'll support them in that. And the other thing I want to talk about is the energy efficiency. So now people just want electricity, but sometimes they don't know how it works. They don't know the consumption of the appliances, the budgets, and then they end up spending a lot of money. So we in our consultation we work with several businesses, and one was a very unique one. It's a very nice beauty salon. This lady was doing very well, but then she got connected, and then all she wanted was air conditioning, and she put the air conditioning in, and she was spending more money on maintaining the air conditioning, and she was suffer at the end of the day. So these are some of the things that we would like to address, like what kind of appliances they can get and how they can use these things. So energy efficient bulbs and all of these.
080939395 0777-700-995. Let's take a few calls and we respond on that particular one. Let's see who's here. Good morning. Okay, you dropped off the line. 0880939395 0880939395 0777-700-995 0777-700-995. Who's here? Okay, you've also dropped off. But let's continue with that in terms of maximizing the usage of electricity.
Yeah. So we want them to
and efficiently, so that you are not spending too much money when you're not.
Yeah. So we wanted to get the right bulbs, and so that's part of it. Get the right bulbs, we get the right pressing iron, and all of these things. So part of our MSME project is like we are going to be able to identify businesses that have that kind of products. We want to create a great link between the businesses, the suppliers, and the customers. That's something we're going to look at. We want to create a great link between financing institutions or other partners that would like to provide support directly and to increase the opportunities for them to access and finance.
Okay. We are already reached the point of closing up. So what's your parting comment?
Well, just like to say that the Millennium Challenge Account, the gender and social inclusion component, we are trying our best to make sure that we reach the impact of the compact to the very ordinary people. And so we will continue to conduct a lot of consultations. We will continue to engage the right people to make sure that we have the right projects in place. And people can learn a lot from the program. You can get a lot of information. We have the website. It's www.mca.gov.lr. So go to the MCA website. You can see for yourself what we are doing. Like, all the information you want is there. And if anybody else, if you want additional information, like you don't get something clear, you need clarification, feel free to walk to the office of MCA. We'll be willing to talk to you there. We have a very strong communications department. Their goal is to make sure that the people get the message. So yeah, I'd just like to encourage Liberians to visit the website, ask questions, engage us on LinkedIn and Facebook, and you can get all the right information you want by checking those sites.
Thanks a lot, Benedict Dossen, for being here today. Hopefully next time we'll have somebody else explaining other components of the MCA-Liberia.
Thank you very much,
My
Julius.
name is Julius Jala Griffith, and we've been here this morning. Thanks for being there on Liberia's